We're sipping tea and prepping for battle. That's right, it's Wonderland's War from Skybound Games. In this fantastical fight for frivolity, 3 to 5 players take on the role of a famous character from Lewis Carroll's Wonderland. Each character leads a faction to war in a fight to restore Wonderland back to being weird. The player who accumulates the most points by the end of the 3rd round shall be named the new ruler of Wonderland. Is it me? It should be me. I'm the Queen of Hearts. Setup begins with the game board placed center. Shuffle the region scoring tiles and place one into each region on the board. Create a supply of allied chip cards and allied chips nearby. Shuffle the Wonderlandian cards and then draw and reveal 3. Place the matching standees or chips next to those cards. Place the shards and the shard die in the center of the tea party. Separate the tea party cards by their round number 1 through 3, located on the bottom left of the cards. Shuffle each pile and then deal cards from the round 1 deck face up to all of the tea party spaces depending on the player count. 10 in a 3-player game and 12 in a 4-player game. Set the other decks aside for now. Shuffle the quest cards and then draw and reveal 1 card. Check the location of the quest on the card and place the starting battle marker in that region. Then shuffle the quest back into the quest deck. Next, each player chooses a faction and receives all this stuff. Look at this! Go ahead and pause the video if you need to, but it's a bunch of cool things like a faction board, some castles, and even a bag. Each player places their supporters, castles, and ability discs next to their faction board. 4 supporters go onto the 3rd forge track on the faction board. Place any faction artifact chips onto their matching symbol. Next, each player preps their bag by placing the 5 faction starting chips, 1 faction artifact chip, 1 forge chip, 1 starting madness chip, and 2 regular madness chips into their bag. Place the faction disc on the score track and a faction cylinder on the start of battle track and the start of leader strength track. Each player draws 2 quest cards, keeps 1, and shuffles the other back into the quest deck. Randomly select a start player who takes 3 shards. Each subsequent player takes 1 less shard than the previous player in clockwise turn order. Remember, you don't want shards. Gameplay occurs over 3 rounds, each broken into 2 phases, the Tea Party phase and the War phase. First up, in the Tea Party phase, shuffle the Tea Party deck for the current round and deal cards onto each space of the board. If a space contains a player count that exceeds your number of players, don't deal a card there, silly. Each leader then places their leader figure on the shard die icon. In the first round, the first player goes first. In the 2nd and 3rd rounds, the player with the fewest points goes first. In turn order, if a player has less than 4 cards, they move their leader clockwise to any unoccupied plate with a card. They then take the card and its listed benefits. However, when moving, if a player reaches the shard die icon, they must stop their movement, roll the shard die, taking the number of shards shown on the die, and refill all the Tea Party cards on unoccupied spaces. Shards suck. They provide negative victory points. Players may then continue moving. A player cannot pass the shard die icon more than once per turn. If a player already has 4 cards on their turn, they place their leader in a region of their choice. Once all leaders have been placed in a region, the Tea Party phase ends. Cards acquired in the Tea Party phase provide bonuses and add Wonderlandians to players' retinue. Before the War phase, each player gains 1 madness chip from the supply. Each player with the most shards gains an additional madness chip and gets to discard half of their shards. Next, in the War phase, players compete in each region where they have units. Beginning in the region with the starting battle token and proceeding clockwise, resolve battle in each region. First, each player with units in the region determine their starting strength. By combining the strength from any leaders or Wonderlandians in that region, as well as bonuses from any Tea Party cards, players set their strength tracker's position on the battle track. Once the starting strength is set, the active players simultaneously draw and reveal a chip from their bag. They then carry out that chip's effects. Madness chips are placed on the leftmost spot of the Madness track, and that player removes a number of supporters from the region according to the Madness chip. All faction and Wonderland chips have resolution abilities, including increasing strength, victory point bonuses, and augmenting future chips pulled from the bag. Once these types of chips are resolved, they are placed onto the leftmost open space on the active chip track. Players increase their strength score on the battle track according to the drawn chip's strength. They then repeat the drawing process, pulling another chip from the bag simultaneously. A few notes about pulling chips. If any player chooses to stop battling, they may put their hand in their bag and choose to draw no chips. They are then out of the sequence until the battle outcome is resolved. Additionally, Madness chips may force a player to drop out if all of a player's supporters are removed from the region. They have busted. Then remove their cylinder from the battle track and cease battling. Busted players reduce their strength to 0 and all of their active chips go to the exhaust pile. To avoid madness, a player may block its effect by flipping a face-up shield token to its inactive side. The Madness token is returned to the bag, and the player must immediately redraw. If a player ever fills their Madness track, they return all Madness and exhausted chips into their bag before drawing again. This allows newly acquired chips and ones drawn from previous battles to be played once again. Once all players have ceased battling or been forced to stop by busting, the battle outcome is determined. Or if a player reaches 25 on the battle track, they automatically win that battle. The two players who scored the highest and did not bust on the battle track each gain a victory point award. The player with the highest strength gains the current round's VP award for that region shown on the scoring tile. They also place a castle in the region. Castles are worth bonus points in the endgame. The second place scorer gains half of the victory points. If players tie for first place, they choose to either gain the full award or place a castle. If a player is uncontested in a region, they automatically win the battle and can either take the points or place a castle. After the battle ends and awards are assigned, move all chips from the active areas to the exhausted area and reset strength trackers on the battle track. Additionally, and importantly, at the end of a battle, any players who did not bust and landed on a forge space during the Tea Party may forge one of their chips in their active chip track. This allows them to move one of the less powerful chips into an open forge slot on their board. They gain the reward listed, and once they complete a row, may acquire the artifact chip to the right of the board. In addition to being worth 3 strength, these artifacts have powers unique to each leader. Repeat this battle process for all regions on the board until all battles have been resolved. The war phase ends and players return all chips from their exhausted track and madness track into their bag. A new Tea Party phase begins after a draw from the quest deck to move the starting battle marker to a new region. Throughout the rounds, players may also complete quests. When a specific requirement is fulfilled during a battle in that quest's region, the player reveals the quest and adds it to their tableau. Each quest has a reward that players will gain if it is in their hand, but if they complete the quest, the card is worth double points in the endgame. At the end of the third round, move to the final scoring. Along with acquired victory points, players gain castle victory points, which begin at 3 per castle but can be increased in-game, and quest points. However, they lose 1 point per shard token. The player with the highest score wins. And that's Wonderland's War. I'm Becca Scott, and I'm actually late for a tea party. And by tea party, I mean conference call. And by conference call, I mean cocktails. And by cocktails, I mean drinking with my dog. You can watch me and my friends play this game and other awesome games on Game the Game right here on Geek and Sundry. We'll see you there.